Wait, so you're part of this solar thing? That's correct. And my nickname is Vital because I, or rather, we, were the major reason for the revolution even happening to begin with. Me surviving YouTube's wrath made everyone believe that they could fight back too. I also gave the idea of changing all of the YouTube stuff to be used for good, which led to our soul research development, and now, well, you've seen what's led up to now. So, I've basically told you my life story up to this point. What's been going on with you? I can only imagine the dimensions you've been to, assuming you've even bothered leaving your dimension since then. Plus, computer and chaos, I believe you said, told you about the soul. So, what's up? It's been... eventful. You know, you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. No, it's the reason I came here. A lot has happened. Both computer and chaos have been keeping secrets from me, and due to that, I ended up getting killed, but then brought back to life. What? I'm also supposed to get some kind of powers out of it, but I honestly don't even know if it's possible. I'm always being told what to do and hardly ever get told about anything until it's too late. I've now died and I'm working my body to the bone every night to make things work. Due to it all, I've gotten constant nightmares about my death and the pain that my training does to me. Even though they're me, I feel like talking to them just wouldn't work. They either talk to me on the level of a coworker or look down on me all the time. So I'm guessing you wanted to vent? I guess. Well, why aren't you doing this with your friends? You said that they were okay, right? To be honest, I don't even know. I've been so busy with the dimensional stuff that I barely interact with most of them anymore. And some of them I haven't seen in, what, a year plus? Like, I only talked to one of them recently because he needed my help getting out of a dimension. I just feel like my point of view doesn't matter unless I'm being used for something. Like, I can't do anything myself for myself. The worst part is that with you, somehow, I feel like I can actually talk to you and have it feel like someone else. You're probably the closest thing I have to a friend right now, and you're literally me. I'm pathetic. Madagascar Escape to Africa. The sequel to Madagascar that continued the exile journey of our crew as they try to get back to New York, but barely make it halfway and instead crash land in Africa, where they end up having family issues, friendship issues, romantic issues, workplace issues.
About maternity leave.
Maternity leave? You're all males.
Okay, there's a lot of issues in this movie. By the way, did you know that this movie was originally named The Crate Escape?
Because everybody's in crates. There's an escape, there's crates, and they escape.
No? Is that useless information that I know? Very much right it is. This movie is probably my favorite out of the three, but I'm pretty sure it's through nostalgia glasses as I haven't rewatched the trilogy in forever. However, I'm pretty sure a lot of people love this movie as well, since it did win favorite animated film for the 2009 Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Awards, or at least people like the Moto Moto meme that was around a while back. With this film came a game just like the first movie, and is actually quite similar to the first game, and I'm going to be making a lot of comparisons to it, so in case you haven't seen that video, make sure you do so you understand some of the points I bring up in this video. I've also done a video for the Madagascar Penguins GBA game as well. You don't need to watch both of those right now, but you can later on if you want. Regardless of whether you've seen the previous ones or not, today I'll be looking at the Madagascar Escape to Africa video game and how it stands compared to the first game. This game follows the same story as the movie, similar to the first game. However, one thing I do greatly appreciate for this game is that it's a lot more accurate and realistic than the previous one, which isn't really that hard to do. Now, it's not one-to-one, in fact there's a decent amount of differences, but it did a much better job than before of being accurate. When it came to the first game, you kinda had to just turn your brain off and just accept a lot of things that happened, otherwise you'd be getting upset at almost every cutscene in the game. But here, there was still wackiness in the story, but it can still be taken at least a little bit more seriously than before. In fact, one difference that I liked a lot was seeing Gloria spend time with Moto Moto and Moment spying on them. Because through this experience, you see that Moto Moto is a scumbag, making Gloria do stuff that he could easily do himself, which ends up leading nowhere and chatting it up with other women. Showing that Moto Moto doesn't really care for Gloria that much and that Melman is trying to look out for her. I'll admit though, it doesn't show how much Melman cares about her compared to the movie, which I guess is quite difficult since the game doesn't mention that Melman thinks he's going to die very soon like how the movie does. But still, giving a very good reason to bash Motomoto works fine for me. Unfortunately though, there are some major downsides. For one, Alex's story doesn't feel like it has proper closure. It's supposed to be connected to when the gang deals with the humans who dried up the watering hole, and while that is done in the game, it feels independent from Alex being welcomed back into the Pride, which isn't actually shown in the game. It feels more like a general endpoint for everyone, but Alex doesn't get that full resolution. We see him get banished, but we don't see him return to get back at Mukunga or even interact with his father once after the event of him getting kicked out. Also, Alex and Marty's friendship is not even brought up in the game, which leads into another problem that I'll mention later on. By the way, this game with continuity is a little weird. For instance, after the plane crash, it made sure that Gloria is seen sleeping, just like in the movie, which honestly didn't even have to be done. But then there's a time where Alex and Melman run into scorpions and say they don't know what they are.
Whoa! What do you suppose that is, Melman?
I'm gonna guess something terrible, Alex.
And then 5 minutes later, call them scorpions.
I bet scorpions don't like to get pelted with fruit.
Who does?
To me, it's pretty subjective to which story is better. The first game had a completely wacky story and can barely be taken seriously, while this game tells a story that can be taken seriously, but it also has some glaring blemishes. It kinda just depends on what you're looking for whenever you're going into a license-based game. With this game releasing on a further group of systems than the first game, you're probably expecting a decently big graphical upgrade, and overall, you get exactly that. Do keep in mind that I'm playing the PS3 version of this game before some people make comparisons. I got a bit of that in my Toy Story 3 review. But anyways, characters that already looked mostly fine before, such as the main 4 characters, look basically perfect now with even more detail. The smaller characters that I had an issue with in the past look just as good as everything else. Well, aside from King Julian, who actually looks perfectly fine with his crown on, and Maurice, who definitely got hit with the ugly stick. I will say though that big amounts of hair looks weird, like it's blurrier than it should be. Also, you can see through things that are behind it sometimes for some reason. I don't know why that's a thing. Now, one thing I am mixed on though is the facial animations. I don't touch on facial animations very often, but this is a case where I felt that it was needed, because sometimes they are actually really impressive looking and are well synced.
Oh, another path! So I risked my neck and back rolling around on that giant boulder, and now you're saying you found another path?
But then there's times when it's just generic mouth movement that doesn't sync up at all.
Boom! Now we can get some photos of me with the natives. You know, proof we were here for dudes back home.
It's quite jarring when you notice this, and if you pay enough attention, you'll definitely see it. It reminds me of the older Kingdom Hearts games whenever they did this, and as much as I enjoy Kingdom Hearts, that kind of stuff does not age well. This game also uses a few scenes from the movie to retell certain events, however they do something I kinda wish more license-based games did whenever using movie footage. They had King Julian retell the events, which gives an interesting spin on things instead of just having the same movie scenes.
Yeah, remember these incredible freaks? Yes, it is the giants from New York.
This is especially good with the fact that about half of the characters, including King Julian, don't have their original voices, which is nice for consistency in voices. At least we have another Polar Express situation. I do wish they did it more often though, as there's only 2 scenes like this at the beginning of the game, and then they don't do it ever again. By the way, King Julian's voice in this game is not only far better than the one in the first game in general, and actually sounds like King Julian, but actually goes on for the role of King Julian mostly outside of the movies to this day. So, nice job, man. Some voice actors carry over from the last game, while others carry over from the movie. There are still a few that aren't from either of these categories, such as Motomoto being voiced by Grimm, and Nana being voiced by SpongeBob's grandmother. That was the most surprising thing to see out of the voice cast. The voice work is top-notch, to say the least. Something that also returns in this game is the postcard loading screens. I do think the first game did these better though, because those had characters in them as well as the levels. Here, all of them are kind of barren wastelands, and 2 of them are repeated too. Kinda dropped the ball a little bit with that one. The music for this game has a lot more of a tribal feel, which doesn't hit quite the same as before. Don't get me wrong, there are some tracks that are really good, but as an entire soundtrack, the first game has a lot of points for me. This game partly plays similar to the previous one. Most abilities from before carry over, and since I've already gone over those in a past video, I feel like it'd be redundant to talk about those specific things again, so instead I'll just talk about the new things that are in this game. The main 4 characters return with their previous abilities along with some new ones. Alex is now able to climb up poles, run along skinny platforms like a tightrope, slide along ropes and vines, and scale walls that have paw prints on them. Marty takes part in races, and during them he can collect carrots to gain the power to sprint. Sprinting on certain parts of the track allows him to run along walls. Somehow. He also aims his kicks to knock projectiles at things like balloons and huts. Gloria uses peppers again, but this time she uses them to break down barriers in her way instead of mowing down everything in her path. There's also a green pepper, which activates a trail of peppers that you have to continuously get to break a boulder far away. In addition to that, she can swim in water. When at the surface, she can dive to go under the water. During her time down there, she is able to shoot out bubbles. There's diving too, which allows Gloria to perform tricks while falling down towards the water. Melman rolls on top of boulders, rolling over scorpions or debris. He also runs a clinic, helping giraffes get rid of intestinal problems by splashing potions on them, or nuking them. Whatever's needed. Seriously, you'll be surprised by some of the stuff they've eaten. The penguins also return this time, though you'll mostly be playing as Private this time around instead of Skipper. They do about the same thing as before, sliding around, knocking out people, and fishing for various objects, but they are also able to drive a jeep and bump into vehicles now. Now this jeep isn't the only thing that you end up controlling. There's a helicopter thing that you have to land on certain pads, moving the plane around to hit humans, and using a camera to take pictures. Over the course of the game, there are 2 main collectibles that you can get. One of them is the King Julian coins that you can use at the duty-free shop.
How do I get to the duty-free?
I'll show you later.
The other collectible relates to fixing up the airplane that the cast crashed in. In order for this to get fixed, you'll need to round up monkeys which are scattered throughout the game in the areas you go through and many minigames that you play, such as dancing in a volcano to copyrighted music, memory games, some form of cart minigame is a little bit weird to try and explain that one, hot potato, or hot durian as this game calls it, dodgeball, and musical chairs. I'm not joking about that one. Now, going back to the coins, you can access the duty-free store at any time. This store contains things like cosmetic items, extra content for minigames, and a gallery to view the monkeys that you find. The gameplay carrying over most of the previous abilities makes this game feel like a continuation of the game that came before it, which makes sense given that this is a sequel. There was even stuff like Alex's rain collecting and Melman's durian flinging too. Even the totem poles come back. It can give some familiarity and a bit of nostalgia for any of those who played the first game. The new moves alongside that adds even more excitement to the characters as they feel expanded on and create new elements for them. Well, for most characters anyways. I'll explain that later. One of my favorite segments was definitely the penguins level, as it felt like the penguins were working together as a team, having multiple parts utilizing the entire group, since before you really only played as Skipper. Honestly, I think anything with this squadron is destined for greatness. The card collecting aspect is also gone now, which I didn't really mind in the last game, but it was definitely a middleman step, and since you didn't even keep those abilities for previous levels anyways, there kinda wasn't too much of a point to them, so I'm fine with them not being back in this game. There's also a good amount of content to this game, one example being an entire level dedicated to playing as Mort. Mort of all characters, and it's actually like decently enjoyable. Then there's some missions that use a camera, which I kinda wish they did more often and even let you use outside of missions, but whatever. You can also add in all of the minigames such as playing 2-on-2 soccer, 11 mini golf courses, and even more, and most of that is also multiplayer. There's even a chess minigame, which doesn't play anything like chess or any other board game I've seen or played before for that matter. Trust me, the rules are very different from regular chess. The coins in this game aren't hidden behind arbitrary means either, which was my main gripe with the last game, giving some fair replay value for areas to collect those and use them in the duty-free store. Accessories you get here carry over into cutscenes like before, but also have all of the Martys wearing sunglasses to keep the theme of not being able to tell which is which intact. A very nice detail that I appreciate. The minigame extensions give more value to the minigames in case anyone wants to play those, and the monkey gallery allows you to customize the monkeys and what is inside and outside their containment area with various hats, necklaces, and objects. Each of these monkeys also have some random written out accomplishment for them, and some of them are definitely random. I'll admit though, given that there are 100 monkeys you can collect, the variety of accessories is a bit lacking, as at some point they'll start to have the same items on them and in their area, so I kinda wish that was better. But on to that thing that I wanted to talk about before. Marty has almost no reason to be in this game. Aside from pretty much the very beginning and the very end of the game, Marty gets no mandatory screen time. There's just a large gap in the game where Marty isn't involved in any missions. He barely exists. And remember how before I was talking about the main four's abilities and how most of them felt like they carried over their previous abilities while also getting additional stuff in this game? Marty was the exception. Not only does he carry over the least amount of abilities, and also debatably learns the least amount of abilities out of everyone, none of his abilities from either game are usable in the overworld. Every character has unique stuff about them in this game. What makes Marty unique in this game? He can't double jump, he can't swim, he can't glide, he can't sprint, he can't crawl, he can't slide, he can't roll on boulders, he can't even attack, for goodness sake. Why? He has no gameplay options compared to every other playable character. Even Mort has more to offer, and he's only playable in one level. This section on the character select might as well not even be there. Plus, Marty's new gameplay modes aren't really that unique either. The kicking segments aren't that far off from durian flinging, and racing is something that realistically just about any character can do, like Gloria, who did so in both games and still had gameplay elements outside of that. So even the new gameplay for him isn't new, it's rehashed stuff of other characters. Now, gameplay wise, Melman honestly doesn't get that much use either, especially his doctoring only needing to be done once in the game, but he's still used more than Marty, and at least there are areas only he can access in the overworld along with his plot relevance with Gloria to make up for that. Since, like I mentioned earlier, Marty and Alex's friendship is never questioned in this game, Marty doesn't even have that going for him. Give Alex some credit, his story didn't really get resolved, but at least it started and went somewhere. Marty hardly has story or gameplay significance compared to everyone else, making it feel like he's only in the game because he's one of the main four characters. In fact, I had to force myself to play as Marty just to potentially hear dialogue from him and have enough footage for him in this video. Anyone who's a fan of Marty is more than likely going to be really disappointed with this, especially given how balanced the diversity of character gameplay was last time. I think this is one of the most divided things I've ever been on with my reviews. I'm talking about the monkeys that you collect. The main problem is because of when you start collecting them. You need 60 monkeys to beat the game, but to even begin getting said monkeys, you have to talk to the penguins and complete their levels. The problem that occurs is when you decide to do this. You can actually end up doing just about everything else before talking to them. But the monkeys don't appear at all until after you do the penguins levels, meaning you'll go through the levels and not be able to complete any of the monkey collection. Talking to them later on results in a lot of mandatory backtracking through previous areas and some minigames, as you cannot complete the game without them. Now, this is remedied by just doing those levels as soon as possible, but even if you do this, there are still 3 areas that you might have to backtrack to if you want to get those monkeys, and some of them require you to basically do the same exact thing all over again. However, some of these places also have extra areas in them that you couldn't explore before, so at least it's not the exact same thing. Plus, on one hand, getting 60 out of 100 monkeys is surprisingly not demanding. But on the other hand, that's because some of them are ridiculously grouped together and easy to get, so it doesn't feel like there's any challenge to getting them. But on the other hand, there are checkpoints for every 20 monkeys you get, giving you a new mission at the plane site. Do you see why I'm so divided on this? Every single pro to this has a con that is almost tied specifically to that pro and vice versa. It was almost infuriating how down the middle this was. I'm really glad I have these ugly segments in my videos, or my mind would be boiling right now as to how to bring this up. This game was a fun one, but it's definitely a bit of a doozy. Almost every aspect of this game, when comparing them to the first one, can be seen as either better or worse than before, but they are never the same. And going further in detail, I'd say that this game has some better highs, but also has worse lows counteracting them, keeping this game from its fullest potential. However, the biggest tipping point is Marty's disappointing gameplay elements. Had Marty felt like he had more of a purpose, I imagine that I could actually make a solid argument for this game being better than the last one. But since my one big complaint with the last game was only tied to 100%ing it, it's kinda hard to bring it past the first game's level for me. So this game did worse than before, but it's not exactly by a lot. Again, it has some really good highs, but the lows bring it down just enough. I guess it's my turn to vent. Frozen, when I was forced to do YouTube, it was the worst experience of my life. I wished horrible things would happen to myself and others due to what I went through. I had no one to turn to. I could barely even talk to myself about it. I was forced to bottle up everything, as doing otherwise would get me replaced. There was one time where I tried to speak out against everything, but YouTube silenced me as soon as they could. They ended up cutting my hand off. What? Why else would I wear one mitten all the time? Needless to say, it was horrible, and I got nightmares about YouTube taking me away and replacing me. Since I never knew how they did it at the time, my mind's cursed creativity filled in the blanks with various methods. At some point, it was every night where I would wake up panicking, shaking, but then one day I just stopped caring about the nightmares. Isn't that good? I stopped caring about the nightmares destroying my mental state. I just woke up calmly and almost wished it was real so that the continuous cycle would be over. I mean, you saw it the moment we met. By that point, I had already gone insane and basically assumed the worst. But there was a part of me that wanted to resist my fate. I still questioned why my death was going to happen, and you gave me a chance to escape. Due to that difference between my nightmare and reality, due to you, a revolution sparked that put this dimension into its prime, and it will only get better. My friends helped me out a lot when it came to my rather broken nature. So much so that I've actually been concerned about my nightmares. Never thought I'd cry tears of joys over nightmares. And lastly, I'm still here. Alive. YouTube probably would have offed me at some point had you not stepped in. And I doubt I would have taken care of myself properly if they didn't. So don't you dare think for a second that you don't matter. I'm only lucky that anyone was able to save me. Even if it was another version of myself. I'll do my best to have your back for everything you've done. But if you go as far as I did, there might not be a way for you to snap out of it. Jeez, I didn't know you had it as rough as you did. I knew it was bad, but you feel any better? A little bit. Honestly, it's crazy to think, but somehow I think talking to myself helped me. Well, I need to head back. Computer and Chaos are both waiting for me. They probably expected me to be back a lot sooner than now. Well, make sure you stand up to them for me. If you can rescue basically an entire world from captivity, you can very well talk to two people, especially given that there are other versions of yourself. Yeah, I'll do that. Thanks, Final. Hope you take care of yourself, man. We both know you need to. What's going on, my fellow residents? It's me, TheFrozenCavern, and thank you guys for making it to the end of this video. So finally, I've gotten to Madagascar Escape to Africa. This game out of the Madagascar games I've played the most in my childhood. I remember having quite the fond memories of it, but this is another one of those examples where my memories of a game are a lot better than they are of going back through them again. Though it's not as bad as some other experiences that I've had. Sometimes it feels a lot worse going back through some games, but this was not as bad as an experience. Also, given that I'm uploading this video on April 28th, it is actually my birthday today, and I'm turning 20. I'm halfway to 40. Yay. It's a little bit unfortunate that I'm kind of having to celebrate it in quarantine, but at least I have these videos to work on as some form of celebration for it. And also, thank you guys very much for the amount of support that you guys gave for my first Madagascar game review, as not only is that one of my most popular review videos, but it's also one of my most popular videos in general. Like, the only review videos that I've done that beat that one are my Ben 10 and Generator Rex reviews. So thank you guys for the support on the previous Madagascar one, and I hope that this video gets at least a good amount of support, given that a fair amount of people wanted this game as the next game that I review from my community tab. And also, lore, that's getting more and more expanded. I do wish that lore stuff would come out faster, but sometimes it just depends on how long a video already is, and sometimes I hope that videos don't end up being too long, but then they end up being long anyways. But again, I hope you guys are enjoying all the lore stuff that I'm adding into the videos, because they are actually really fun to do. But regardless, if you have not already, make sure you guys go down to the description below, because that is where all of my social medias are located. My Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Discord are all down there, and they are all ways of making sure of whenever I upload another video or have any other update for the channel. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, as well as share this video out with your friends and family. But until the next video, take care.